anything you ever do with your money, you need to know, like, and understand it. We're all playing by the same rules, but some of us are taking advantage of this huge tax book and some of us aren't. Where is my money and how do I be smart with that money that I have? Now, in a whole life insurance policy, we have guaranteed growth. So every single dollar I put into my whole life insurance policies, my banking system, all of that money is guaranteed to grow every single year for the rest of my life. Once we start to understand how to control our money, now we got to start understanding how to move our money, deploy our money, and make more money with our money. Hey, welcome to Wealth Webinar Wednesdays. Today is February 7th, 2024. My name is Stephen Nagy. I will be guest hosting today on behalf of Chris Naugle, who is traveling down to Tampa, Florida to attend one of our masterminds we attend regularly with Kent Clothier called Millionaire Boardroom. And it's one of the places that we make a lot of new connections, form new relationships, learn about new opportunities. And we take all of that and we bring that into this campfire, bring those opportunities, bring those relationships, bring those incredible experts in their fields to you on these wealth webinars, on our trainings, and to our live events that we do as well. So Chris is busy working and making that happen over the next couple days. So I'm here in the office and keeping things moving forward with all of our weekly webinars. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So what I wanted to do today with everybody, and if you're new here, welcome to the campfire. Welcome to the Chris Naugle Network. This is something we do every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We also have several other shows we do each week. On Mondays, we have Money Club Mondays, where we talk about real estate opportunities and deals and different borrowers that are within Private Money Club. Every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the Private Money Club Quick Start webinar, which is all about private money. And that's taught by Noah Harris, who is on this webinar over in the chat box right now. So that's a new webinar, starts tomorrow. So make sure you register for that. And then, of course, we do What the F Happened every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And we do Ask Me Anything with all the BYOB Money Mentors every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Those are both live streams on the YouTube channel and Facebook group. So all free education we do every single week without ever missing a week to give you all of the best financial education and strategies for you to take back control of your money and solve your money problem. Now, with that being said, when people first learn about what we do with Money School, with the Private Money Club, with the Chris Naugle YouTube channel, with BYOB, being your own bank, it can be overwhelming. You know, we have a lot of different points of entry, all these different webinars, all this different content we put out on social media, on YouTube. So often people are like, wow, this is incredible, but like, where do I start? What does that look like? How do I actually take everything that I'm seeing? I love it, but how do I take all that and actually put it into motion and take action? And that's the right question, because you can be the smartest person in the world. You can listen to podcasts for 12 hours a day, read every single book in the world, but unless you take that and put it into motion, put it into action, it just kind of sits in your brain. And an analogy that I've said for my entire career is if books, tapes, media, audio, education like that created millionaires, well, librarians, or created success, librarians would all be millionaires because they surround themselves with that every single day. However, we all know it takes more than that. It takes what we learn and putting it into motion, taking action, implementing in our lives. And that's what this is all going to be all about today, is what does that look like? What can I get started with now? Even if I'm brand new, I don't know anything about financial education, or if you're an entrepreneur already, you're an investor already, maybe you own a business or two, how do you take what you're doing and be smarter with it? And so that's what we're going to dive into today on this wealth webinar. So I appreciate everybody being here with us. And oh, cool. Looks like we got Drew over in the chat box. Chris Naugle's checking in, probably on a layover right now. Oh, it looks like it's Shauna. It's not actually Chris. So hi, Shauna. Got to change your name. You're tricking everybody, see, including me. But we got a good group in the chat box helping out. So if anybody does have any questions as we go, put those in the Q&A box. I'll answer them and have some fun in the chat box, and we'll get to that stuff as well. Shauna said her medical's done on her latest policy, so she's ready to go with that. Very, very, very cool. And Shauna, maybe you can post the link to register for the new Thursday Zoom that we're going to be doing starting this Thursday, which is the Private Money Club Quick Start webinar, which is going to be really, really, really exciting. So let's dive into this a little bit. Let's start talking a little bit about what does it look to start mapping out the millionaire mystery? What is money school? Why are you here? What does it mean when we talk about becoming your own banker, taking control of your money, and solving your money problem? And as we go here today, I'm going to bounce around a little bit. And so to try and paint a pretty picture of all of this, okay? So when it comes to what we do, we really focus, on taking back control of your money. And the reason for that is because and when I say we, I mean the majority of people in this country, the United States of America, we've kind of fallen into this pattern, this trend. I would even call it a trap of doing what we've traditionally done for years and years and years and years, what our parents did, what our grandparents did. And that's that kind of, let's go to school, let's get a college degree, let's go work for a company, let's climb the corporate ladder. Along the way, let's invest in our 401ks, let's buy a home, all this stuff that, we kind of think of as like the American dream when you're younger, people look at this country. Now, obviously, to a lot of us on this right now, the American dream is probably the next level. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's how to take the real opportunity in this country and turn that into success. Because I truly believe the United States of America is the richest, most opportunistic country that's ever existed in the history of the world, at least the world that we know of. And so when we look at things like statistics and how people are actually doing in this country, it paints more of a bleak picture a lot of the times. So for example, this is a statistic that I learned about several years ago, and it was put out by the Social Security Administration. And the Social Security Administration told us if you take 100 people at retirement age, only 5 of those 100 people are going to be able to retire the way that they want to, meaning 95 out of 100, 95% of people at retirement age are either not going to be able to retire. They have to continue working. They're going to have to drastically change what retirement looks like for them. They're going to have to possibly continue to take on risk to try and generate enough income for them to live on. But the bottom line is they're not going to be able to live what they worked their entire lives and envisioned happening. And this isn't just the Social Security Administration telling us this. I've experienced this firsthand throughout my life. So out of college, I was actually a personal financial advisor. So long story short, I went and interviewed with a company called American Express Financial Advisors, which at the time was transitioning into Ameriprise Financial, which is what they're called today, Ameriprise Financial Advisors. And they sponsored me to go get my Series 7 license, my Series 66, my Florida 215 variable and annuity insurance licenses. And then along the way, I got some other certifications and qualifications in the financial planning industry as well. So I was a full-scale financial advisor, and my job was to meet with clients and sit down with them. And I love this part of the job. I would sit down with clients and I would talk with them about what are their hopes, what are their dreams, what does retirement look like for them, what are they doing now, do you plan on having a family, do you want to travel? Like, let's talk and let's paint the picture of what retirement looks like for you. And then they would all have, everybody would be a little bit different, but everybody would have that dream of what retirement looks like, travel and cars and a vacation home and all these different things, taking care of kids and grandkids and great grandkids. And, all of you, if I asked everyone on here what that looks like for you, all of you would have different responses. But I guarantee if we talk long enough, you'd start to get pretty passionate and really, really want that to happen for yourself. And so that was great. But then reality would hit. And I would have to tell them, okay, you're 45 years old now. This is how much you're saving. This is what that looks like. You want to retire at 62, assuming everything else stays the same. This is what we're going to have to do. And 9 times out of 10, we would either have to take on more risk. We would have to save more now, meaning we had to change our lifestyle. So if they were maybe taking 2 vacations a year, driving a couple new cars, whatever. Okay, we have to cut back on that. Maybe we got to, not buy that new car we want because we need more money to invest, or we'd have to take on, like I said, more risk so we could try and grow our money quicker to get us to where we want to be. Or we're going to have to maybe get a second job to generate more money, or you're going to have to push back retirement. So instead of 62, you're going to have to retire at 65. So we have to tell them, hey, that's what that looks. And so it wasn't fun because I knew there was something better out there, because I also would started to attend different real estate events and networking events. And I would start to surround myself with truly successful people, business owners. And I ended up getting some clients that were business owners and did very well for themselves. And it seemed like all the successful people in my financial planning practice that I was meeting at the time, I was in my young 20s. So I didn't know any better, but all the people I was meeting, it seemed like they started to have the same things in common. Those that were successful seemed to have a different mindset. They almost thought like they were wealthy even before they even became successful and became wealthy. And then I started to see all of them started to have similar investment patterns. A lot of them owned real estate. A lot of them owned rental properties. A lot of them owned passive investments, that were outside of the stock market. A lot of them were investing in alternative investments. A lot of them were investing in various private businesses and different kinds of opportunities that people that I was meeting with outside of the wealthy didn't even know about, had never even been exposed to. And in fact, I couldn't even offer that stuff to them as a financial advisor. As a financial advisor, I was limited to what I could offer my clients. And so I started to see these patterns and I started to see what was happening. And so I started kind of doing that in my own life. So I actually went out and I attended a real estate investment seminar. I took action. We started doing some real estate deals, started buying real estate, started doing some wholesale transactions, some flips, started acquiring some properties. And I started seeing that for myself. And then I said, okay, well, my financial planning career, I'm kind of telling people to do all this stuff that it doesn't seem like it actually works. And over here, I'm doing things in my own life that are starting to be successful and leading me to better finance. So I said, maybe it makes sense for me just to follow that path full time. And I made a conscious decision to say, okay, I am from this point forward in my life, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner. I want to be an investor. And I decided to let all to quit my job at Ameriprise Financial, my career as an advisor, and let all my licenses go, my Series 7, 66, 215, because I didn't want to have something to fall back on. And those of you that have ever taken a Series 7 exam or the securities license exams, they're very difficult. It's not an easy test. It takes many, 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 many hours and a lot of discipline to be able to obtain those licenses. So letting those go was almost as hard as a decision as it was to obtain those licenses. But for me, I said, I don't want something to fall back on. I want to go at this full time. Now, this was back in 2006, going into 2007. So this was quite a few years ago. Now, over that time, I can't tell you it's been perfect. I can't tell you I've always been successful. I've had a lot of failures. I've had businesses I've bought and sold. I've been businesses I've started that failed. I've had times when I have had to go back and get a job and work for somebody else just to get by. But a lot of times that's the life of an entrepreneur. And I'm a little hard-headed sometimes. Sometimes I try and do things my own way instead of following somebody else's advice because I think I know better. But I've learned over the years that you're going to pay for something one way or another. So you're either going to pay through it through your own mistakes, through your own failures. It's going to take you longer to get, or you're going to pay somebody to help you get there. And whether that's through mentoring, whether that's through coaching, whether that's through education, whether that's through partnerships, JVs, whatever the case might be, you're going to end up probably paying for it one way or the other. And what I found over the years is having somebody there with you, a partner, a mentor, a coach, they're going to get you there a lot quicker and typically with a lot less of the ups and downs, which in the long run ends up being a much better thing. So over the years, also, I've also learned what I like and what I don't like. So there's parts of business that I love. There's parts of investing that I love. There's also parts of business and parts of investing that I do not enjoy doing, that I don't want to wake up every day and do. Just as a quick example, when it comes to real estate, I love real estate. You guys will hear me talk about real estate all the time, and we're going to talk about real estate in just a second. It's one of the three pillars of foundation that we need for our financial success. As investors, real estate is one of the three pillars that allows us to build this success on top of the foundation. Real estate's one of those three. And so I love real estate, but what I found over the years is I don't love flipping houses. I don't love going in and deciding how to design a house and what walls to move and what colors to do the walls and all these different things that go into it. I don't have the vision for that. So I stay away from that stuff nowadays. In business, there's certain aspects of business that I don't love. And so what we do now in business is we hire people to do that for us and for me. And so you start to learn that over time, and that comes with experience, and having somebody there that's motivating you and helping you show that light. So I say all of this just to come back to my main point, that we all have paths in life to choose. We can choose the life that's easy, that's maybe always been done. Sometimes it's easier to wake up every day, go into an office, have somebody tell you what to do. You have a task list, or you have, projects you need to get done. You go home at the end of the day and you turn it off. You forget about it. And you invest in the 401k, and you hire a financial advisor that you hope has your best interest. But again, that tends to not work for most people. And so what we look for, and what I consider everybody on this webinar right now, and the people that we want around our campfire, our clients, our students, our members, whatever you want to call our inner circle people, that's what we're looking for, which are the 5%. The 5% that understand there is more out there. If I'm willing to give a little bit more, I know that I'm going to get a lot more in life. And that's what we build everything around when it comes to all of these companies and the education that Chris, myself, and our entire team put out every single day. Is we look for chinks in the armor. Is that a saying? We look for cracks where we know that from experience and from studying markets and studying economies, we know when something's coming, and we know how to prepare for that. And we know that if we do this the right way, it doesn't matter what the economy's doing. We can have a booming economy, the biggest bull run like we've had for the last 13, 14 years in this country. We can have a crash like we saw in '08, like we saw in '01. We can have a stagnating market like we saw, for several years in the past. It doesn't matter, because we understand where we can go in and how to find that opportunity. Now, how much different is that from what the other 95% do? The 95% are told by financial advisors, oh, the market's at all-time highs. Just keep investing in it. You're going to dollar cost average over time. Even if the market comes down, it's going to come back up. So it's going to be fine. So even when we're at all-time breaking record highs, keep on investing in it. Keep on buying stocks. Keep on investing in the markets. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And that's what most financial advisors are still telling people to this day. Well, that's all fine and dandy. Maybe you're young, maybe you're 30 years old, and you can weather that storm. If the markets pull back 30% over the next couple of years, you don't care. You got plenty of time for that to go down, start coming back up, and you'll be fine in the future, hopefully. And that's the way history's always worked, ups and downs. Just recently, in the last 12 years, the hockey stick of explosive growth the markets have seen, it's just not sustainable. But nonetheless, people are still out there buying into the stock market right now. Now, if you're approaching retirement age and you're doing that, then I get a little more worried for you, because what can happen? And this happened to so many people in 2008. How many of you on here know somebody, maybe you personally know a friend, a family member that was approaching retirement in 2007, 2008, 2009, and they could not retire because what happened? Everybody lost 30, 40, 50% of their 401ks. Their retirements were gone. The rentals, the properties that they had bought that they thought were going to provide them cash flow lost all the value, and they foreclosed on them. And how many people had to go continue working and could not retire, and it changed their entire plans. So many people. I saw it happen personally, so many people. And that's what we want to avoid. Is we want to understand, we're never going to be able to time a market, but we're going to be able to understand it. And we're going to be able to know that when markets change, there's different strategies, there's different opportunities that are going to allow us to not only weather that storm, but take full advantage of it and really generate and create massive wealth if you know what you're doing. I mean, how many of you look back, and I could pull up, I don't have it with me right now. Well, here's kind of a chart. So how many of you would look back to like 2009, 2010, 2011? If you pull up a real estate chart right now, how many of you wish you would have bought all in? you would have leveraged everything you had. You would have bought everything. You would have sold whatever you could in 2006, 7, and you would have bought all in 2008, 9, 10 when the real estate market was way down here. How many of you wish you could have done that? How many of you wish you could even bought in the stock market at that time? Some of these stocks like Tesla and Apple that have just exploded. I mean, how many of you wish that you would have bought some of these private businesses, some of these companies like PayPal back then, and some of these Ubers and that have just had explosive growth? Or how many of you had a business idea in the past? Forget about the markets for a minute. Just how many of you in the past have ever had a business idea and you're like in the shower and you're like, that would be a pretty cool idea. And then like, a few months later, a few years later, you see that same business idea you had, somebody else made a business out of it and they're making millions and millions of dollars with it. And you're like, I had that idea before that person ever did. How many, and so it happens to all of us. We're like, I wish I could have done it then. I wish I would have done something different in the past. Well, we can't go back in time, but we can start today and understand the mistakes we made or the missed opportunities we made in the past. And we can start to prepare, because if there's one thing that history tells us is history always repeats itself. What goes up always comes down. What happens in history always repeats itself. So we can study, and by studying history, by studying markets, we can predict what's coming. And we know it's coming. We don't know exactly when, but we know enough that we know it's coming soon enough where we can prepare for it right now today. So what does that look like for you? Now, I'm not going to fully get into all of that right now today because frankly, we just don't have time. I only have 90 minutes with you today, and I want to get into talking about these different types of strategies we use that you can start implementing right now. But luckily, Chris and I put together a flagship training program. We call it Money School Essentials. It's our Money School Essentials 3-day training program. This Money School Essentials training program, Chris and I built in 2019. And we pulled from our years and years of experience to put these 3 days together. So Chris, if you guys don't know Chris Naugle was a high-level financial advisor for over 16 years, has owned multiple businesses throughout his life, turned his experience in investing into a real estate investing company where they flipped something like 260 homes, acquired a bunch of rental properties, had a show on HGTV, a pilot show called Risky Builders, and had a lot of success investing, especially in the real estate field. Myself, I told you a little bit about my background. So what we did and what I focused on over all those years was not only the businesses, but I told you guys before what I don't like to do, especially when it comes to real estate and business. What I do love to do though is work with clients, work with people. I love to teach. I love to educate. I love to talk on webinars. I love to speak on stages. I love to attend mastermind events and share knowledge with others. That's what I love to do. The consulting side of all this stuff. So Chris and I came together in 2019 and put together this 3-day Money School Essentials 3-day training class. And in 2020, we went out and started traveling the country, teaching this in person in hotel ballrooms across the country. But we all know what happened a few months into 2020, right? COVID hit. So we were no longer able to hop in airplanes, fly across the country, and hold events in hotel ballrooms. It all got canceled. So what did we do? We said, okay, but this stuff's so important, we need to get it out there. So we learned how to use Zoom. We learned how to use the internet and online technology. And we brought this 3-day training event, our flagship training that we do, virtual. And we started doing it virtually. And the response, the feedback, and what our students were telling us, Chris and I looked at each other, and Shauna, you're on here, you were part of these conversations. We said, we never can stop doing this. We can reach so many more people by doing it on Zoom. We can record the entire thing. We can give them the recordings with timestamps. So if there's one section they love that they want to go back and watch, they can pull the recording, go right to that spot, watch it again and again and again, and then keep it for the future. So if you're doing something in your life and you start taking action, I mean, during the 3-day, we present 12, 13, 15 different opportunities and strategies that you can take action on. But we recommend you take action on 1, maybe 2 or 3 if you're a little more advanced at a time. So if you're taking action on 1, 2, or 3 different strategies and we present 15 different ones, guess what? In 6 months from now, you're going to want to go back and say, okay, now I've mastered these first 3 strategies. I've implemented these strategies into my life. Now let me keep going. Let me start doing more and more and more. So you can go back to the recording and watch it again. So it's been really cool what we've been able to do with this virtually. And now over the last 4 years now, we've been doing it quarterly. So once a quarter, we've missed a couple because of travel and other things going on with the business. But what we do is we try quarterly now, and we have committed this year to doing 4 of these, to doing our flagship Money School Essentials 3-day virtual training event. So what I'd like to do, and that's where we're going to spend 3 full days with you going in depth with everything that I'm kind of mentioning right now during this 90-minute wealth webinar today. So if you'd like to get more in depth with us, you'd like to really dive in, you're all in, you're like, hey, I know that I want to take back control of my money. I know I want to be part of that 5%. I want to have a mentor, a coach, somebody help me get there, hold my hand. This 3-day training is right for you. And so I would invite all of you to attend the 3-day training for us. And I believe we have a discount. Shauna, would you mind just posting the link on where people can go to register for the 3-day training? And if we have that discount code, if you could put that in there also, just so everybody knows, the only reason we even charge for this is because I'm a firm believer that if you give something for free, sometimes it gets treated that way. It gets treated with less value. And quite honestly, this wealth webinar that we do every week is a great example of that, because this is such a powerful weekly webinar that we do. And that's from people telling me that, not just me saying it. But so many people like get invited and we get these emails that are like, hey, take me off your list. Like, I don't want to hear about that. It's why? Because they see it as free and they probably don't see the value in it. And so what we do is we charge $297. If you're married, bring your spouse. If you have kids, let them watch with you. We're not worried about that, but we ask you to give us $297 to attend all 3 days. And then all we do is we take that money and put it into marketing to bring more people in, because we truly believe the more people that can get this education, the more successful people in this country will be. And we'll start breaking them out of that 95% and bringing them over to our 5%. You go, and by the way, I guarantee you this is a life-changing event. If you go through these 3 days, you attend the 3 days with us live, and at the end of Sunday, if it doesn't blow your mind, if you're like, that was a waste of my time, forget the $297. And that code right there gives you $100 off too. So it's really $197. So if you don't absolutely love this, just send me an email and I'll give you the money back. Guarantee, promise. Okay. So if you're, and that's how much I believe in this. So all we do is we take that $197, we put it into marketing to bring more people in so we can help more people. That's it, guys. So I just wanted to mention that because that training is coming up March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And it's so powerful. And the timing is so important right now with what's coming up in 2024 being an election year, with the Federal Reserve not knowing, like, do we have this under control? Do we not have this under control? Jobs reports are through the roof, but at the same time, pricing is still high, and people are working 2 jobs, and credit card delinquencies are hitting record levels right now, and car repos are hitting record levels right now. The housing market's still unbelievably high. Interest rates are still high because the Fed doesn't know what to do. So I have a feeling this year, being an election year, a lot's going to go down. So we want to be prepared for it, whether it hits this year, whether it hits next year. And we'll go in during those 3 days into detail on all of this, show you exactly where we are today, where we're going to be later this year, going into next year, and what you can do right now to prepare and take advantage of that. And the last thing I want to say on that is we do talk a lot about taking advantage of opportunities, taking advantage of markets, taking advantage of timing, and all of this. You have to take advantage of these things to truly generate massive wealth, period. You can get started in real estate investing and you could build wealth 100%. It's going to take time, okay? There's no get rich quick in any of the stuff that we teach. So my point is, when I talk about taking advantage of things, we don't take advantage of people. In fact, it's the opposite. And we're going to show you how a lot of the strategies that we teach not only are advantageous for you and allow you to take advantage of those opportunities, but it's going to help someone else in the process as well. We don't take advantage of people. We actually help other people. We truly believe that if we can create win-win situations, if we can help somebody else, it's going to help us in the long run. The more we give, the more we get. And that's something that we live on. So if you like the sound of that, you guys are definitely in the right place. All right. With all that being said, I look forward to seeing people at the 3-day. And I had a couple questions. So from Ireland, Billy, yeah, we have a video on how you can do a lot of this stuff that we teach outside of the United States. I don't know, Shauna, maybe you can respond to that one, or I can pull it up later on. But it is on the YouTube channel, Billy. So if you go to the YouTube channel, but a lot of, depending on what you're trying to do, what strategies, we do have people that live in other countries that are able to participate. So it's going to kind of depend. Yeah, Greg, we do give a replay with the virtual class. So at the end of each day or the next morning, depending on how quickly we can process the video and get it re-uploaded, we do send out that recording. And then at the end of all of it, we send out all 3 days with a recap of all the experts, all the contact information, all the opportunities. So you have everything, and you can go back and watch that recording over and over again. Are the 3-day seminars repetitive? That's a great question. So the 3-day, they are completely different every time. There's going to be some overlap because there are some foundational principles that we teach that are important. So we do talk about the infinite banking concept, although the infinite banking concept, being your own bank, it's not, we don't like do the whole 90-minute presentation or anything like that. It's more expert level, like high level, like specifically strategies for using the infinite banking concept. Probably about a year and a half ago, we were teaching a lot about precious metals, and we haven't taught that in about a year and a half. We're bringing that back to this 3-day segment on precious metals. Something else new on this one, we're going to be talking about turnkey rental properties. Yeah, velocity banking. So we actually teamed up with one of the top trainers on YouTube that teaches velocity banking and how to use velocity banking with the infinite banking concept. And so that's the first time we're going to be teaching that on the 3-day training. And actually, Chris is going to show you how he's paying off his mortgage using this strategy a lot faster. So Christy Van with Fantastic will be on the 3-day for the first time. And I'm sure I'm missing some, Shauna, but so there is some repetitive parts, but there's no script. We don't have anything that we follow, so it will be different. And just by the nature of what we teach, Chris does a lot of research every single day, reads a lot of white papers, and the economy is constantly changing. And so what the economy and strategies look like last year are going to be different than March of this year. So a lot of it is very different. And we do have if you click on that link that Shauna shared, there is a website that shows some of the speakers. I don't believe we have it completely updated yet, though. But just know we bring in the best of the best as far as investors go and experts. And that's what you guys can expect for the 3-day. All right. So with all that being said, let me talk a little bit about kind of what we do with these various companies and why we do it. So the best way to do that is kind of start understanding why we're doing what we're doing. So I talked about the 5% and the 95% earlier. So why aren't more people successful is kind of a good question to ask. And over the years, we've really boiled it down and identified a few different areas where most people fall short in their education and then fall short in their implementation just because they are not aware of it. You don't know what you don't know. And so when we look at these wealth killers, we look at things like taxes. Most people know taxes are paid on everything. We pay taxes on our income. We pay taxes on purchases. We pay taxes on the vehicles we drive. We pay taxes on the vacations we go on. We pay taxes on the home that we live in. We pay taxes everywhere, anywhere. And if you don't, they throw you in a cage. If you've ever looked at a tax code book, it's unreadable. It's written by lawyers. It's very, very thick. It's huge. And basically, the way our tax system works is the government says you need to each year decide how much money you made and how much money you owe us, and then you need to pay us the right amount. Basically, the way taxes work in this country. Here's the tax code. Good luck. All right. And then, so what most people do is they go on TurboTaxes or one of these online tax sites, or they get an accountant that thinks they know what they're doing, and they file their taxes, and most people pay taxes, or I'm sorry, most people get a tax refund back, and that's the way it works. Every day, every year, their entire lives, and taxes end up just eroding wealth from us. And what do taxes seem to always do? Taxes seem to always go up. We don't see many times that we get tax breaks. Typically, taxes go up. And when we look at the national debt being 34 trillion, expected in the next 20 years to be at 144 trillion, spending is never stopping with the federal government, and all this stuff. How are we going to pay for all this debt? Well, odds are we're going to have to increase taxes on everybody and continue to do so to try and maintain this crazy debt level that we're at. So I don't see the tax problem going away. Now, when we analyze taxes, for example, most people file their taxes and they get a tax refund. I hear it all the time. Hey, when I get my tax refund this year, I'm going to do this investment. Or when I get my tax refund this year, I'm going to do a dump it into a policy, or I'm going to, pay off this debt, or whatever the case. Do you guys know what a tax refund is? A tax refund is an interest-free loan to the federal government. Because all a tax refund is them saying throughout the year you paid too much taxes. Because when you get your paycheck, most people have taxes taken out of it each paycheck. And so those taxes get held. And then at the end of the year, if you don't owe as much money as was taken out of your paychecks, then they give it back to you. But basically, it's a tax-free loan because you're giving them all that money throughout the year. And at the end of the year, they give you back what what the refund is. But did they give you any interest on that? No. So it was a tax-free loan to the government. They had your money, they used your money without paying you to use it. So that's what most people do. Just follow the old tax system and do all that. So what do the wealthy do? Well, the wealthy play by different rules. That's not true, though. The wealthy play by the same rules that everybody else can play by. The difference is the wealthy understand the rules. The wealthy understand that rule book and how to take advantage of it. And one of my tax mentors, he always says there's two tax laws in this country, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. Which one are you playing in? So when we look at things like that, it's okay. So we're all playing by the same rules, but some of us are taking advantage of this huge tax book and some of us aren't. And so at the 3-day training, we are going to dive in multiple different tax strategies, how you can start reducing your tax burdens legally. Very, very important. We always want to do this stuff 100% legally. Okay. So how do we start bleeding money that way? Another great example of wealth killers is inflation. And inflation was not as fun to talk about in 2020 because inflation was kind of hovering around that 2% range that the Fed has a target of. Um, and if you don't know what inflation is just the erosion of the dollar. So what a dollar buys us today won't buy us next year and the following year. So if a bottle of water costs me $1 today, next year it might cost me $1.05, $1.10, $1.15. So it takes more dollars to buy the same thing. That's all inflation is. Now, over the last several years, inflation's been in the headlines. Inflation's ran very, very hot. And I won't get into the reasons right now, but over the last 2.5 years, we're almost at 20% inflation. We were up at like 9, 10%. Then it started to slowly come down a little bit. Now we're hovering in the 3, 4 range. Who knows what's going to go on? But when those prices go up, do they ever come back down? No. Even right now, we hear all the time in the media and things, inflation's come down, inflation's under control. That's not true. Inflation rate has come down from, let's say, 9% to 3%. But if inflation's still at 3%, what does that mean? Well, it means that cost of goods is going up by 3% each year, which is still 50% higher than the Federal Reserve target rate of 2% is. So we're still much higher than where we need to be. And when you aggregate that over several years, that's why everybody, when they go to the grocery store, when they go to buy goods, people with kids, things like that, why they're hurting so much financially, because it's taking a lot more dollars right now to buy those exact same goods. So how do we start making sure that inflation doesn't completely destroy our success. And so we'll get into that a little bit. And the way that we really want to make sure that we're keeping up with inflation is making sure that our dollars are always in motion, that all the money that we make is in a vehicle that's in somewhere where that money can now make more money, where we're at least keeping up with inflation. If I have my dollar, for example, we teach a lot with the infinite banking concept, as all of you know, which is taking advantage of a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy. Now, in a whole life insurance policy, we have guaranteed growth. So every single dollar I put into my whole life insurance policies, my banking system, all of that money is guaranteed to grow every single year for the rest of my life. Now, it's not making 10, 12% returns within that policy, but it's making a little bit. And over time, what happens in a whole life policy? That money compounds. So each year, my money is compounding over what it was the previous year. So if I'm at a dollar this year and I make 10%, now I'm at a dollar 10. Well, now I make another 10%. Well, I'm not compounding at the dollar, I'm compounding at a dollar 10. So now the second year, I don't make a dollar 10, I make a dollar 12 or whatever it is. And so I'm making more and more every year for the rest of my life. So what can we do? How can we take our money, put that money in motion, put it in the right vehicles to keep up with inflation? What do most people do? They take their money, they stick it under a mattress, or they put it in a savings account that's paying a lot less than the inflation rate, things like that. Traditional investing, traditional ways of thinking about money. If I go back to the way I opened this thing up, it's all mindset. As a financial advisor, I went from the traditional mindset to the investor mindset, to the wealthy, to the entrepreneur mindset. And that mindset shift is everything. And once you have that mindset shift, when it comes to being your own bank, the infinite banking concept, using specially designed whole life insurance policies this way, self-directing your retirement accounts, making spreads and leverage through things like HELOCs, all of this starts coming together. And this is all designed to do things like outpace inflation and especially get into the third wealth killer, which is volatility. So volatility is the ups and downs. Volatility is a financial advisor telling somebody, hey, keep buying into this record high stock market because even if it comes down, it doesn't matter because we'll keep buying in on the way down. And eventually over time, it's going to be higher than where it is today. Sure, if you have the time to wait that out. But what they also don't tell you is they don't tell you the difference in average versus actual returns. They don't tell you the difference in the drawdown effect, where if I lose 20%, I got to make 30% back to get back to even. If I lose 30%, I got to make like 40 some percent to get back to even. So there's ways to use numbers and statistics to make things look prettier than they actually are. One trick that I've seen in the past used with people that like kind of say, oh, the market's always up, and they'll take a calendar year. And let's say in 2020, the market was low at the beginning of the year, but high at the end of the year. Well, they will take the number at the end of the year where it's high, but then maybe the following year, the market starts out high, but at the end of the year, it's low. It came down during that year. Well, instead of using the down number at the end of the year, like they did the year before, they used the top number from earlier in the year. So sure, it's during 2020, during 2021. It's just an example, not those actual years, but it's different points within that year that they're pulling that data to make it look like there's actual growth when in reality there might not have been. So little things like that I've seen happen before that are just dirty. And this volatility again goes back to, do you want to be the 5% or the 95%? So we need to understand, and I've already hit on this, so I'm gonna go pretty quick here, but we need to understand where we are today and how to position ourselves to not only weather the storm and withstand the volatility, but how to take advantage of that opportunity and where are those opportunities. And so that's why I say when this 3-day training coming up March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is so important, it's because volatility's here. The volatility's coming. What are you going to do about it? Are you prepared for it? And that's going to make all the difference in the world of where are you today and where are you in 5 years and where are you 10 years from today? What you do right now today on this wealth webinar at 1:55 p.m. Eastern on February 7th. Your decision right now today is going to have an effect on the rest of your life. Isn't that wild to think about? You know, if you start looking at like the butterfly effect, which is they say if a butterfly flaps its wings on the other side of the world, that movement in the universe can trigger the next, can trigger the next. And all of a sudden, that butterfly's movement on the other side of the world is felt here sitting in my house in South Florida at 1:55 p.m. Now, that's an extreme example, but is that real? What do you think? I believe in it 100%. I believe every single action has an opposing reaction. I believe that every decision we wake up and make, positive, neutral, not making a decision, negative, whatever that is, affects us moving forward. Our mindset is everything. And so I cannot stress that enough. What we're doing right now today is going to make such a difference. And then, of course, this fourth wealth killer at the bottom here, interest, is something I didn't realize was so important because I never understood prior to 3-4 years ago the importance of being your own bank. And so when we talk about all the interest that's bled out, whether it's financing cars, whether it's college education, whether it's credit cards, whether it's your home mortgage, whatever it is, all that interest over time gets bled out to other financial institutions and makes them wealthy beyond your wildest imaginations. Think about what banks do. Banks know how to make money, and banks do very well. Banks don't actually create anything, though. Banks take your money. Sure, they create a loan, they create a mortgage, something like that, but it's your money. So you're depositing money at a bank. They then take that money. In fact, they can use something like 10 times the amount you deposit. They're allowed to because of the Federal Reserve and everything, but they take that money and they lend that money out. They pay you 3, 4, 5% in a savings account right now. They charge somebody else 7, 8, 9, 10, 11% for a mortgage, for a car note, for a personal loan, whatever the case might be. And they make that spread by not creating anything other than using your money to give to somebody else, and they make it all. So when you see these banks that are going up on every street corner, you see the most beautiful buildings in the major cities around the country. They all have bank names at the top. These banks are making a lot of money. So what we need to do is stop making banks rich, and let's start keeping that within our financial lives.
You ever feel like you don't have control of your real estate business or your money? That's right. The big banks and the institutions, they're in control, right? I know you've felt that before. Private Money Club puts you back in the driver's seat. As members often tell us, it's a total game changer. Join the community of like-minded lenders and borrowers by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up.
Actually, let me give you a really simple example of this. I have an 8-year-old son, and we just started spring baseball. So he's a baseball player. I coach the team, and we just started last week. So Thursday night last week, I was driving home with my son from practice, and I had to go through the ATM machine to pull some cash out because I had somebody come in the next day to detail my car. And I like to pay people cash. And so I stopped at the ATM machine to get cash. Now, I will tell you, I don't use cash for a lot of things, and I don't go to the bank very often. I do all my banking mobile deposits online. And so I rarely go to the bank. And so my son has probably never gone to the bank, to tell you the truth. I don't know if he's ever even been through the ATM machine. So anyways, my point of the story is we pull up to the ATM machine in front of the bank, and my son's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, this is a machine that you go and this card right here is what's called a debit card. And it basically allows me to spend my money at places, or I can use it to go to an ATM machine like this and get cash out. It's my money that the bank holds for me, and I can just go get cash out." He's like, "Oh, cool. Can I watch?" And I'm like, "Sure." So, he's sitting there. We're in my truck. He's watching out the window, and I put the card in and, put the code in. It spits the money out. He's like, "Wow." He's like, "So if I go and I put $1 million in the bank, I can go pull $1 million out of it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, sure, you could do that." He's like, "Wow." He's like, "This is really cool." And I'm like, he's like, "Well, so what if the bank charge you to do this?" Which I thought was a good question. And he goes, so like when you just got the money out, like what did the bank charge you to do that? And I was like, nothing. The bank doesn't charge anything. They give you a free account. You can hold your money. You can get the money out when you want. He's like, well, how does the bank make money? And I was like, another great question. I was like, well, this is how banks operate. When I take my money, just like I just told you guys, when I take my money, I put it in the bank. They then take that money and they give loans out. And I was like, I'll give you an example. If I was to go buy a new car, traditionally, I was like, I would go to the bank and they would give me a car note where, let's say it's a $50,000 car. They would give me the $50,000, and each month I would start to pay them back that $50,000 over the next 5, 6, 7 years. I told him, I said, but I don't just pay them back the $50,000. I pay them back with interest. See, the bank charges me interest to go borrow that money from them. And I said, so at the end of the day, after 5, 6, 7 years of paying $50,000 back at 8, 9% interest, I will probably end up giving the bank a total of $70,000 or $80,000, maybe a little bit more. So I borrowed 50, but I end up giving them over $80,000 back. And my son looked at me and goes, I am never, ever going to do that. He goes, I am never going to get a loan at a bank. Why would I ever do that? And I was like, you're absolutely right, man. Like sometimes it takes the simplicity of a child's brain to understand a concept that the rest of us think is the norm. But why is it the norm? It's the norm because it's what we've always done. It's what we've always been told to do. But why? You know what I mean? And so he looked at that. So I took it a step further. And I was like, how you always see all the stuff I'm wearing. I actually had a BYOB sweatshirt on. So I was like, in the office, I got the BYOB sign, my hats I always wear, all this stuff. I'm like, that stands for be your own bank. And so what I teach people and what we do in our financial lives as a family is we have created our own banking system. So when I go make a purchase, we're putting new windows and doors in our house right now. So I use this as an example because he was here when the window door guy was here. So he understands that. I said, so what most people would do is when they go and they buy new windows and doors, they would finance that through a bank and they would pay that bank interest. But what we are doing as a family is I am borrowing from our banking system to pay for these windows and doors. And then what I'm going to do over the next several years is pay our bank back. And he goes, okay. And I go, do you know why I do that? And he goes, well, because now you're paying yourself back the interest. And I was like, exactly. So now all that interest that would have went to somebody else's bank or finance company now stays within our financial lives. And he goes, wow, that makes sense. And he goes, well, what do I do? Like, how do I get a bank? And I was like, that's the cool thing, Bryce. I was like, I actually started a bank for you a few years ago. Remember I told you? He goes, oh yeah, I remember you saying something like that. I go, so each year I put some money in there for you. And then as you get a little bit older and as you start to understand this and ask me more questions like you're doing right now, what we'll do is we'll use your bank to start buying you things like your first car. And he was like, wow. And he loved it. And so I had this conversation with my son, who's 8 years old, and it blew my mind. Like I couldn't believe it. I just thought it was so cool. So thanks for letting me tell that story. But it really does prove the point of just how easy it is just to do things because it's what we've always done, without thinking through why we do it. And at the end of the day, that really is what being your own bank's all about. So when we look at, some other things that I found outside that, don't allow people to be successful, it's not always just the wealth killers. A lot of times it is mindset. And this is what I was talking about before with that mindset shift, doing what we've always been done. Fear. Fear is a big one. And this is something I've been kind of studying a lot lately and thinking a lot about because I'll give you a personal example. So I've never been kind of like a gun guy. Okay. Like I've always believed in the Second Amendment. I've just never really shot guns. I grew up in the country in Virginia. A lot of friends would go out hunting and things like that. It was just never my thing. I've shot guns in the past, but I never really felt comfortable around them. And over the last couple of years, I've made some purchases just because I thought it was a smart thing to do, was to have some guns after COVID, just in case down the road, I just thought it'd be smart to do. But I keep them locked up. I don't really go near them, and I honestly was been a little scared of them. And because I don't understand them, like I don't fully understand. And so what I've been doing recently is I've gone out with people. I've, it's friends, so I'm not, I didn't hire a coach, but I found people that were very knowledgeable in shooting, and I've been going out with them lately and shooting. I'm taking my guns and they're teaching me. And this last time I was out, it clicked in my mind, and I thought to myself, I could carry my handguns, I could take my long guns, I could go hunting, I could protect, I could all these different things now, and I would feel completely comfortable. Like I could bring this with me, I could keep it on me, and I feel like I could use it as protection if I needed to very comfortably. Where not that long ago, I was scared to death of them, and that fear is gone, and that fear disappeared because I created an experience for myself. I forced myself to go do it, to learn something new, to become familiar with it, and as I did that along the way, all that fear started to go away. And so it made me start thinking about the clients that we talk to all the time. We talk to a lot of clients that want to get started with infinite banking. They watch the 9-minute video, they come on our webinars, and they're like, okay, this makes sense. I want to do it. Let's get started. So they get on a strategy call with one of our money mentors. We talk with them, we figure out how much they want to start in their banking system, what that looks like, what the strategy is for using the banking system. We go through all of that with them, and then we start the process of acquiring that whole life insurance policy. There is a full qualification approval process, medically, financially. So, it does take some time. So we have to start that process. And what I found over the last few years is a lot of people are very excited to get started with their banking system. But guess what happens? Within a few days or a week or two, they disappear. So they are pumped, ready to go. They go to start the process and then they disappear. And so I started really thinking about and talking to people why that happens. And what I started to understand was it's not that they no longer think it's a good idea, it's just they don't fully understand it. And when you don't fully understand something, what happens? Fear starts to come into your brain. That little bird that's in the back of your, sitting on your shoulder or inside your eardrum telling you, hey, what makes you think you can do this? Why do you think you can do what the wealthy do? I used to see this a lot with first-time real estate investors. What makes you think you can go out there, flip houses, and make $60,000 on a deal? That's not for you. That's for the smart people. That's for the experts. Well, why aren't you the smart person? Why aren't you the expert? Why can't you do this? And I honestly believe it just boils down to fear. When we let fear, we let that little bird talk into our ear, it stops us from doing so many things that we could do. And so what I've really learned about fear is it can be scary and it can hold us back, but at the same time, it can be easily controlled and defeated. And the only way to do that, though, is by education, by putting yourself around the right people with the experience, by having a coach, having a mentor again, having somebody tell you, okay, this is the right way to do it. Let me hold your hand along that pathway. And as you start to feel that and get that experience, that fear will disappear. I promise. I see it happen all the time. And I know this to be true, even in banking, creating banking systems, because I can't tell you how many clients I talk to that started, that disappeared, and then came back 6 months later, a year later, and said, Stephen, I'm so sorry for disappearing before. I want you to know I've been watching in the background. I've been hopping on the webinars. I've been continuing to learn and study this stuff. I now get it. I now understand it. I now am ready to go with it. And they start their first policies. They start going all in. And next thing I know, they're the biggest proponents of this because they had that mindset shift. For some of us, that mindset shift can happen in 90 minutes watching a webinar. Some of us, it can take a lot longer. And it doesn't matter which one of those you are, it just matters that you are trying to defeat that fear and you're trying to do something better for yourself. Break out of that mold, break out that tradition that we've been told over and over again. So I hope you guys don't mind me sharing some of those little things I picked up on over the years, just with experiences I've had with clients and businesses and different things that I've done throughout my life. Now, with that being said, obviously we have a lot of really good resources, a lot of really good ways for you to continue on this educational journey. We do all these webinars every single week. Chris Naugle puts out new content on the YouTube channel almost every single week. One of my favorite quotes, we haven't brought this up lately. We used to talk about it all the time. So Chris and Brent introduced me to this. The problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so. Think about that for a minute. Still one of my favorite quotes to this day. So there's lots of places you can educate and learn. There's different books out there. We Chris has written a few that are very, very powerful. So I think you guys get it. I can give you a list of all this if you guys want to. So let's keep rolling with this. So let me kind of take a quick step back here for just a moment. So those of you that are new to this ecosystem, new to this campfire, maybe you've been around watching our stuff and you love it, but you don't fully understand all the different things we have going on. Let me just kind of lay it out just so you understand what this all looks like. So first off, we have a company called Money School. And Money School is really the driver of all of the content, all of the marketing, and a lot of the education that we do. So what that looks like, Money School is what puts on our 3-day Essentials virtual training event that we were just speaking about a second ago, which hopefully all you guys bought tickets for just now. Money School puts on our biannual experience mastermind that we do twice a year. So last year we were in Mexico and Las Vegas. This year we'll be in Orlando, Florida, in April. And then I believe the fall experience is going to be out in Sundance, Utah in the end of October. So we can see the leaf changing and everything like that. So that'll be this year. So Money School puts that on. Money School is who spends all the money on Chris and I going out and attending masterminds and developing new relationships and bringing opportunities to the network. Money School puts on these wealth webinars. It provides the video editing and shooting and all the content creation that you see on our YouTube channels and social media. So Money School's like the marketing, content, sales aspect of everything that we do. And then you have what's called the Money Multiplier. So the Money Multiplier is the infinite banking wing of everything that we do. So if you look at the foundation that we build for somebody's financial success to control your wealth, I mentioned real estate before. Whether you're an active investor and you need to build wealth quickly, or whether you're a passive investor, like a private money lender, or you're investing in development deals, things like that, more on the passive side of real estate, and you're looking to have your money make more money and grow wealth for you that way, real estate's very, very important. On top of that, real estate allows us to make money in any market. So I don't care if it's an up market, a down market, a sideways market. We can use different strategies in real estate investing on the active and passive side to make money in real estate, as long as you know what you're doing. So that's why real estate is in the foundation of all this wealth creation and everything that we do. Another foundation inside of that success pyramid, so to say, would be infinite banking. So the infinite banking concept, using that specially designed whole life policy, is what allows us to flow our money through that vehicle, through the whole life policy, to take advantage of that uninterrupted, guaranteed compounding returns, while simultaneously I can use that money in things like real estate ventures. So now I have the growth, the protection, the legacy within my banking system. I'm not bleeding out interest. I'm combating inflation. It's tax-free growth within there. It's guaranteed growth. So I'm out of the volatility. So all 4 wealth killers were eliminated from my life by running and flowing my money through the infinite banking concept and becoming my own bank. And then simultaneously, I can take that money and I can start investing in businesses, in real estate, in new opportunities. And that's where you really start growing wealth. So we have the protection, we have the smart with the banking, and then we take on the risk and whatever else we want to do, outside of there. So that's why that infinite banking concept is part of that foundation. right along with real estate. And that's what the money multiplier is. So anytime you hear us see BYOB, become your own bank, the infinite banking concept, IBC, the money multiplier, that's all of that right there. So the money multiplier is actually our agency. So one thing a lot of people don't realize is one of the reasons why we're able to give so much away for free, so much education, so much content, do these webinars every single week, and we don't charge for any of this stuff. A lot of people don't realize is when we start, so when somebody wants to become their own bank and do the infinite banking concept, you do use that whole life insurance policy. We are all licensed insurance agents to work with these insurance companies to be able to design and create these policies for you. And what happens is the insurance company, by the nature of the way their business works, they pay commissions to the insurance agents directly. And so we make our money through the insurance carriers. They pay us directly. So that allows me to educate you, to strategize with you on a call, which, by the way, anybody that wants to start an infinite banking policy, I'll put the link in the chat box right there. You could schedule a call with our money mentors and they'll strategize with you. They'll look over your whole entire financial picture and we'll start figuring out how to implement infinite banking into your financial life and then hold your hand through the entire process. So you can schedule a call right there. But the reason we can do all this stuff for free, and even once you have the policy, we work with you for free for years and years and years into the future to help you use the policy, to service it, to help you take loans, to plan, strategy, all of that. It's all free because we get paid directly from the insurance company. So we're licensed agents. So the money multiplies the agency. We're licensed agents. That's how we make money. Okay. So all I ask everyone on here is if you do start infinite banking and you like our education and what we teach, start a policy with us. Because not only are we going to design it properly for you, do what's right for you as the client, not what makes the agent the most money. Because if I ever have, and just so you guys know, I do manage our entire agency. So every single agent on the money multiplier, I have the ability to fire them if we need to. And if I ever have an agent that works for the money multiplier, BYOB, that is not doing the right thing for the client, they're gone. That is not the way we work, just so you guys know. But anyways, so with the money, with our agents, we're able to do this the right way. So whether you go to someone else, whether you go directly to an insurance company, whether you come to us and let us do it for you, you're not saving any money anywhere. It's the exact same thing. And that's assuming somebody else can even build the policy the right way for you. We just happen to be very, very, very good at it because we do a lot of them. We have a lot of experience. And so that's what the money multiplier is. Anytime you hear that. And then from there, you're going to hear one other company quite often, and that's the private money club. So the private money club is going to be the place for you to go to take on that risk, to invest, to grow your wealth quicker, things of that nature, whether you're on the active or the passive side, because private money club is that community of real estate investors, real estate entrepreneurs, what we call borrowers, and people that have money that are looking to make more money with their money. So what we call private lenders. And so within the private money club, we're going to mimic what the banks do. Okay. And what I mean by that is if I'm a real estate investor and I'm a borrower, let's say I have a house that I can buy for $150,000 today. I can put $50,000 into that house and then I can go and I can sell it for $300,000. So if I look at those numbers, I need $200,000 to buy this house, fix it up and get it ready to sell. And I can sell it for $300,000 and make 100 grand. Now there'll be some costs and expenses in there on selling it and holding costs and things like that. But let's just say I can gross $100,000 on that thing. And the only thing stopping me from making $100 on that deal is having 200 grand to go buy it and do it. I have the contractors in place. I have everything else ready to go. I just need $200,000 to go do it. Well, what are my options? I could go to a bank. I could jump through a million hoops. I can hope my credit score is high enough. I can hope I have enough down payment money. I can hope that the bank doesn't feel like my debt to income ratio is too low, or the loan to value ratio is off, or all the challenges that banks provide, not to mention how long it takes to get a loan from a traditional bank. Usually takes at least 45 to 60 days to go through all that and close on that thing, and that's on the fast end. Well, what if I need that $200,000? I don't, I'm not, maybe my debt to income's a little off. Maybe my credit's not the best. Maybe I don't have I don't have a down payment. Maybe, there's a million things. Maybe I don't have time to wait. Maybe I need that money within 2 weeks to close on it. I don't have time to wait for a bank. There's a million reasons why a bank loan doesn't work. So what do? You're going to make $100,000 on this thing. You are, because you have the experience. Where do you go? Well, Private Money Club is a great solution for that person, because they can go on there and they can meet people that have money, what we call private lenders. So let's say that someone on here has money. Let's say maybe they started a policy, they paid off their debt. Now they have all this money sitting in their banking system, their policy, and they know they want to invest it, but they don't want to buy into the stock market. They have a job, so they don't want to they don't have the time to go out there and do flips themselves. So what do they do with that money? Or maybe you have a self-directed IRA. You have a bunch of money in a retirement account or an old 401k. Well, we can move that into a self-directed account and then use that money. But the bottom line is, wherever you have that money, you could take that $200,000 that you have sitting there, and now I can lend it to that real estate investor. I can lend it to him for $200,000, and maybe he's going to pay me 12% annual returns. Maybe he's going to pay me a couple percentage points on that deal as well. Who knows? It's all negotiable. But what are we going to do in that situation? I'm going to lend that investor the $200,000, and I'm going to do so legally, just like a bank does, using a mortgage, a deed of trust, a promissory note, documents that are drawn up by an attorney. Everything is 100% legal, and we're doing it exact same thing a bank does. If you go and borrow money from a bank, what do they give you? A mortgage, a contract, a promissory note that states the terms of the repayment, and all of that. What do private money lenders do? Exact same thing. There's no difference, essentially. So that's what we're going to do. And that's what the Private Money Club is. It provides a platform and a community for people that need money to meet people that have money, and people that have money that need to put that money to motion passively without going and doing the work. It meets them with somebody that needs the money, that does have the time and the wherewithal and the energy and the ability to go out there and actually do the work. So it's a match made in heaven. We kind of call it a dating site for money. And so that's what the Private Money Club is at the end of the day. So when we look at how all of this works together, I'm not going to have time right now, obviously, to get into all the different examples of how to use infinite banking, how to pay off debt a lot quicker, how to make major purchases like cars and get all the money back for every car you'll ever buy, drive, and own, how to invest in deals, and instead of making 12%, make 42%, doing the exact same thing just by using your own banking system instead of Wells Fargo. Those are all examples that I have in the full 90-minute infinite banking presentation. So go watch the recorded version of that. Chris Naugle puts out a great version. I have a great version. Watch whatever. We show you those examples. I'm just not going to have time to get to that stuff right now. So I just want you to understand kind of what we're doing with all of this. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. So let me stop my share and kind of keep on talking here for a few more minutes. And then I want to answer any questions that anybody has. So if anybody has any questions, please put those in the Q&A box, and I'm going to hit all of those in just a second. So back to that foundation and why we're doing what we're doing. So if we want to start as we're brand new, you just came here, it's your first time here, you're new to our network. What does that look like? That's how I opened up with, and that's how I want to finish. Okay. So what do we do? First off, mindset, education, eliminate fear. Let's have that flip occur. How do we do that? Education. Attend these webinars. Attend the 3-day Money School Essentials virtual training event. Come out to one of our live events, whether it's a mastermind experience, whether it's the Private Money Club Money Tank event, whether it's one of the other masterminds that we attend, whether it's Noah's Re-Up event in Colombia. Come and see us somewhere. Money Multiplier is putting on an event in Nashville in May. There's lots of opportunities to come out and hang out in person. So that's another great thing to do. Surround yourself with the right people so you can run ideas, you can form partnerships, all that stuff. So that's all mindset. That's all education. That's all eliminating fear. Then once we have that right mindset, now it's going to open up our minds to allow us to start understanding these various strategies to learn them. Anything you ever do with your money, and Chris says this best. He always says you need to know, like, and understand it. For me, I've taken that a step further. Not only what I invest in, but everything I do with my money and every business I look at being involved in, I need to know it, like, and understand it. Okay. So I think that's excellent advice. So if we need to know, like, and understand something, then we need to start diving into it. We need to start talking to other people that are already doing it. We need to find somebody to help us with that. Okay. So we can provide that with all the strategies that we teach when it comes to alternative investing. So get the mindset right and let's start learning these different strategies. So I talked a lot just now about the infinite banking concept. What money do you have that the infinite banking concept is right for? Okay, because there's some money that you have that the infinite banking concept is not right for. So, in my opinion, qualified funds. So, if you have an old 401k, you have an IRA, any kind of retirement accounts, those are what are called qualified funds. We cannot use qualified funds to purchase whole life insurance. So, any of your qualified funds, we don't really want to think about using to create a banking system in the infinite banking concept. So, we want to look at money that's outside of retirement dollars. Okay. And I'll take it a step further. Money that we're using for everyday bills, maybe a cell phone payment or your electrical bill, even your rent, if you rent, just going out to dinner, gas in your car, everyday expenses. Unless you're very experienced with the infinite banking concept, those are not the right dollars to look at putting into um, a whole life policy. What we want to do, especially when we're starting out new, we want to look at the leftover dollars, the savings. Um, where's our money going? If it's going right now to credit cards or other high interest debt, some of that we can look at running through the policy and then using that to pay off the debt. If you're looking at buying a car for cash, no, run that through the policy and then let's use that to buy the car because now that money's in there compounding for you. Again, these are all examples that we show in the full 90-minute presentation. I just wanted to kind of hit them real fast because there is some money that is not appropriate to run through a policy. So I just want you to start thinking about that. Okay. Where is my money and how do I be smart with that money that I have? All right. So all those non-qualified dollars, those are all good. That's all good money that we can run through a policy. Now, our qualified funds aren't good for a policy. So what do we do with that money? Well, we want to control it. So a 401k, if you have an IRA at Fidelity or Charles Schwab or Morgan Stanley or the financial advisor, they're going to allow you to invest in the stock market, in indexes and in publicly traded REITs and things like that. What we do with our retirement dollars are private loans. We invest in private businesses and IP. I invest in precious metals, in other businesses. So I control my wealth and my retirement dollars. And if you really want to look at, let's start strategizing. Okay, can we take some of those retirement dollars and convert them or start contributing to what are called Roth retirement dollars? Because that way, every dollar that we make within that IRA, if it's a Roth, it's all tax-free growth. So now we're starting to eliminate one of the wealth killers from our life, which is taxes, because any growth on our money in a Roth is completely tax-free. So I can make $1 million in real estate and I will never pay a dollar of taxes on any of that thanks to a Roth retirement account. So we need to do what's called self-direct that money. We do have a company we work with called Horizon Trust that's very good at that. So just let me know if you need connected. And they will be on the 3-day training also. So you're going to meet who Horizon Trust is. So let's be smart with those dollars. And then, what assets do we own and can we start leveraging that? And does that make sense to do that? So we're going to talk a lot about that on the 3-day training as well. So if I own real estate and I have equity in that real estate, does it make sense to tap into that equity through a HELOC or through a all-in-one mortgage? We're going to talk about that at the 3-day a lot. How do we take that and how do we wisely start investing that or moving that money and making a spread? I mean, think about it. If I'm paying 8% on a HELOC and I'm making 15% on a private money loan, I'm making a 7% spread. You take half $500,000 at 7%, that's $3,500 a month coming in, whatever it is. It's not bad income you're starting to generate that otherwise would have just been sitting in your rafters doing nothing for you. So how do we be smart about the assets we do own and what we do have? And then if you know, are not familiar with different opportunities, where the market is today, all of that stuff, it's time to start learning. So like private money club, real estate, that foundational aspect, if you have no knowledge of it, you need to start learning it. Because again, if you're barely getting by paycheck to paycheck, you know you don't have any savings, you know you don't have any wealth built up, you got to do something different. And maybe that's going out there and actively getting involved in real estate to generate income for yourself, generate money for yourself that you can use for other things later on. Or if you have money and you just want to protect it, make sure it's safe, take it out of the markets. How do you keep it moving, making more money, generating more wealth passively? So we need to start learning this stuff and the differences and what that looks like. And not only real estate, we have people that come on our 3-day training that show you how to flip forklifts. We show you how to invest in precious metals. We're going to be talking a lot about gold and silver on this 3-day. We have people that come on and talk about developments and investing in developments, investing in businesses, investing in startups, things like that. So these are all different opportunities that once we start to understand how to control our money, now we got to start understanding how to move our money, deploy our money, and make more money with our money. And this is all stuff that we teach through these various companies, all different strategies that you're going to learn a lot about that you can start implementing right away. So for anybody on this call that's like, hey, I'm ready to take action right now today on some of this stuff, step one, sign up for the 3-day training just because you're going to learn so much at it, and I'll give you your money back if you don't. Step number two, I would recommend scheduling a call with one of our money mentors so they can start you the process of creating your own banking system. When you go to schedule that call, there's going to be a 90-minute video. So there's going to be a 90-minute video on there that you can watch if you haven't watched the 90-minute video yet. So make sure to do that. But hop on that call. You can start your infinite banking policy right away. And remember, it's a long process. So if you don't fully know how much you want to put into it, how much you want to pay into the premium deposits, that kind of thing, it doesn't matter. Because to start the approval process, there's nothing locked in yet. So over the next month, month and a half, 2 months, while you're in the approval process, you can fine tune that with your money mentor and get it perfect, but take action, get started. That's what all this is about. So with that being said, I hope that helps some of you on here today. I hope that kind of gave you some insight into my mindset, what kind of makes me tick, why we do what we do every day, why we've built these companies and we put so much into them. Chris, myself, Shauna, everybody on here that I see, and why people come back week after week, year after year to continue to learn. So let me see if there's any questions that I can get to, and then we'll wrap up here for the day. And if anybody does have any questions that I don't get to, or you want to ask them live, we do have Ask Me Anything 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and that is streamed on the YouTube channel as well as on social media. So you can join us at 4:30. It's a live stream called Ask Me Anything. It's a lot of fun as well. So Andrea said, what's the website for Money School? So all this stuff, Andrea, is free of charge. The Money School 3-day is $197 with the discount. And then Private Money Club is $997 a year if you want to be a premier member. So you can join that as well. So where to start? Low cash, high equity, HELOC to fund PMC using spread to create a policy. Yeah, I mean, if that's kind of where you are right now, Anonymous, I would probably say start with the 3-day if you haven't already, because it's going to introduce you to the most strategies and opportunities. And then from there, you can start to develop, what do I learn? What do I like? What do I understand? Where do I want to put that money? I mean, we even had a guy on a couple of weeks ago talking about oil and gas in a way that oil and gas has really never been done. So we meet so many cool people. We bring so many new opportunities to the table. It really just boils down to where are you? And if and I'll give you one suggestion here, I guess. Not a suggestion, just something to think about more than anything. But that would be, if you are using a HELOC to invest and make a spread, you're probably going to want to invest in something that's paying you a monthly return. So for example, if I borrow money from a HELOC, that HELOC requires me to make a monthly payment back to that HELOC. Okay, so if I take the money from a HELOC and I invest it in something that's not going to pay me any return until the deal closes, like if it's a business, if it sells, if it's a real estate deal, maybe the real estate deal has to close before the investors get paid out, something like that, where you get paid at the end, that might not be the best thing, because now you got a HELOC you're making monthly payments on that, sure, you're going to make up for in the future, but can you financially cover that monthly payment to the HELOC without that additional income coming in? where if maybe you're doing a private money loan, and this can even happen with a private money loan. So if you, even with monthly interest repayments, so if you borrow from a HELOC, depending on how much the spread is, the interest only payments might not be enough to cover the HELOC repayments, because the HELOC repayment, depending on how it's set up, it could be interest only or it could be interest and principal. It just depends. So how much that monthly is, does it cover how much interest you have coming in through that private money loan? In that case, if it's too much where you can't cover it, maybe that doesn't make sense. Or what you can do is you can negotiate with that real estate investor, with that borrower, and you can say, hey, listen, I'm using something that I have to pay back each month. So instead of you paying me interest only, I need to amortize this loan and I need you to pay me back interest and principal. So I get a larger amount each month. So that way I can cover my nut on the spread. So just some little things like that, just to think about if you're looking at making spreads. So Billy, right now, Private Money Club is focused on real estate only. I have seen a couple business opportunities and private businesses and some different partnerships and JVs in the forum, which is fine, the public forum on there. And in the future, we are going to have categories for things outside of real estate. But right now, majority of focus and deals and everything are going to be real estate based in Private Money Club as of right now. How do I make 42%? Very easy. Start your own banking system. And once that thing starts compounding and growing, you use that policy to do private money lending. And then when you add up the money you're making from those private money loans, along with the growth that you have within your policy because of the uninterrupted compounding returns, add all that up, you're going to get very, very high annual cash on cash returns. And that's what IBC is all about. So great question. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate everybody hopping on today and letting me share a little bit with you guys. If you need anything from me at all, send me an email, snaggy@chrisnaugle.com or at privatemoneyclub.com or at themoneymultiplier.com or at whatever email extension you have for me. Shauna's been on here, very helpful. Thank you so much, Shauna. Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale. Watch that video. Absolutely. And that's something else that's been fun in our little group text that we have going. I was talking about earlier is people just sharing different quotes from Earl Nightingale and The Secret, The Strangest Secret, and all these different videos. So highly recommend. Your network equals your net worth. Surround yourself with the right people. Get the right education. We're here for you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Shauna. Thanks, everybody. See you.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.